It is the first and foremost red line that must not be crossed in China-US relations.
Post-Chinese President Xi Jinping and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump's historic meeting in South Korea, the world thought U.S. China ties would improve and that the two world powers would probably become allies. But Taiwan comes between the improving ties of the two big powers. Washington has formal diplomatic ties with Beijing, but maintains unofficial ties with Taiwan and is the island's most important arms supplier. But is Trump too naive to anger Xi over U.S. ties with Taiwan, or does the U.S. president have some other plan? In simple words, the U.S. angered China, but why? The Trump administration and its ongoing foreign policies have already been scrutinized by Republicans and Trump loyalists. The new deed by Trump may again disappoint Americans. The U.S. approved the sale of fighter jet and other aircraft parts to Taiwan for $330 million on Thursday, marking the first such transaction since President Donald Trump took office in January, drawing thanks from Taipei and anger from Beijing. Because of its unofficial ties, the United States is bound by law to provide Taiwan with the means to defend itself. The proposed sale of F-16, C-130, and other aircraft parts will boost Taiwan's operational readiness. China regularly conducts gray zone activities near Taiwan in the waters and skies to pressure the island without direct combat. With the U.S. as a defense ally and with these arms, Taiwan will be able to maintain fighter readiness, strengthen air defenses, and enhance its response to China's gray zone incursions. The sales are expected to take effect within a month. Noting the arms sales, Taiwan thanked the U.S. government for continuing the policy of regularized arms sales and supporting the nation to enhance its self-defense against adversaries. It further called Taiwan-U.S. security ties an important cornerstone of peace in the Indo-Pacific region. While Taiwan is happy with U.S. help, China felt betrayed by its new friend. During a press briefing on November 14, China's foreign ministry expressed anger over U.S.-approved multi-million-dollar arms sales to Taiwan and affirmed that China would do what is necessary to defend its sovereignty, territorial integrity, and security. Angry Beijing also issued a high-voltage warning to Washington and asked it to be aware that the Taiwan question is the core of China's interests and the first red line that cannot be crossed in China-U.S. relations.
The United States' sale of weapons to the Taiwan region of China seriously violates the One China principle and the 3 China-U.S. joint communiques, especially the provisions of the August 17th communique. It seriously infringes upon China's sovereignty and security interests and constitutes a grave violation of international law. It sends a seriously wrong signal to the Taiwan independence separatist forces. China expresses strong dissatisfaction and firm opposition. The Taiwan issue is at the very core of China's core interests. It is the first and foremost red line that must not be crossed in China-US relations. China urges the US side to strictly abide by the One China principle and the 3 China-US joint communiques to fulfill the commitments made by US leaders on Taiwan-related issues, to stop condoning and supporting Taiwan independence forces in seeking independence by force, and to take concrete actions to safeguard the overall interests of China-US relations and peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. China will take all necessary measures to firmly defend national sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity.
China has consistently claimed democratically governed Taiwan as its own territory and has not ruled out the use of force to take control of the island, while Taiwan's government strongly objects to Beijing's sovereignty claims. But why is Trump getting involved in the China-Taiwan long-standing conflict? Is Trump's peacemaker side working extra hours? Trump's move could cost him ties with China, plus China's promise to crack down on fentanyl. Post his meeting with the Chinese president, Trump halved the tariffs on Chinese goods imposed as a punishment over the flow of fentanyl to 10%. He also said he aims to eliminate all fentanyl-related tariffs on China.
There's a lot of things, a lot of good things happen, but unfortunately when it's developed a certain way, a lot of bad things happen. Because a lot of people would say, well, why is it made? I mean, it's made for a lot of good purposes, but it also has some very bad purposes when you design it a certain way and people can take it and design it. So China's working very hard on that. I really believe that. And they have an incentive. I'd love to get rid of the extra 10%. I put a 20% penalty on. I had a great conversation about it with President Xi yesterday. And I'd love to get rid of the other. As soon as we see that, we'll get rid of the other 10%. Other than that, we haven't cut the tariffs at all with China. But we're going to have a great relationship with them, I think, for a long period of time. If we have a smart president, we'll have a great relationship. If we don't have a smart president, which is also a very strong possibility, then we won't have a great relationship. But China is, the meeting with China was incredible. The meeting with Japan, incredible. And the meeting with South Korea, likewise, incredible, all of them. And trillions of dollars are coming back to our country because of those meetings. And we have others planned with other countries, but those are big ones. And the meeting with China was one that everybody wanted. The meeting with the new prime minister, who's fantastic, of Japan, could not have gone better. We've worked out our deal. And South Korea, you saw the way we were treated. Our country's respected again. When they treat me with that kind of respect, they're treating our country with that kind of respect, which is much more important. And our country is respected again.
After Trump's positive trade talks with Xi, FBI Chief Kash Patel made a secret visit to China to discuss the fentanyl crisis, law enforcement, and diplomacy. In a press briefing on November 12th, the FBI boss announced that China agreed on a plan to stop fentanyl-related chemicals as part of its deal with the Trump administration to crack down on the lethal opioid.
We have some tremendous news thanks to President Donald J. Trump once again for the American people. As soon as the President of the United States took office, he issued a mandate to rid America of the scourge that is fentanyl, a drug that has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. Thanks to his leadership and direct engagements with China, we set up a framework to execute that mission 8 months ago. Attorney General Bondi immediately thereafter took steps to engage her counterpart in China at the Ministry of Public Security. Pursuant to their direct discussions, as the FBI director designated to run counterpoint on this, along with the Secretary of State Rubio and Ambassador Perdue and the team here at the White House, we set forward a path to implement the policy needed to crush the plague of fentanyl. Deputy Attorney General Blanche and our teams have been hard at work ever since, ultimately culminating in my trip to Beijing last week. This was only possible due to President Trump's historic engagement with President Xi just a few short weeks ago that set the stage for today's announcement. At that meeting, the leaders reached an agreement. But just to put this in frame for the American people, a reminder here that nearly 100,000 people died of fentanyl overdoses just last year alone. Here, this year, under this president, the FBI has seized 1,900 kilograms of fentanyl so far. That is a 31% increase from the same time period last year. To put it in perspective, that's enough fentanyl to kill 127 million Americans. Fentanyl precursors are what makes up fentanyl. While we, the interagency, the Department of Justice, have been fighting hard to seize and stop drug traffickers, we must attack fentanyl precursors, the ingredients necessary to make this lethal drug. That was the sole purpose of my trip to China, to eliminate these precursors. And if successful, we would suffocate the drug trafficking organization's ability to manufacture fentanyl in places like Mexico. This was the first time an FBI director has been to China in over a decade and received the audience with his counterpart to address this matter directly. And again, thanks to President Trump's direct engagement with President Xi, the government of China committed fully to my engagement there on the ground in Beijing at a level never seen before. While at Ministry of Public Security headquarters, I met with my counterpart at MPS, where the Chinese government agreed on a plan to stop fentanyl precursors. What does that mean? The People's Republic of China has fully designated and listed all 13 precursors utilized to make fentanyl. Furthermore, they have agreed to control 7 chemical subsidiaries that are also utilized to produce this lethal drug. Effective immediately, essentially, President Trump has shut off the pipeline that creates fentanyl that kills tens of thousands of Americans. These substances are now banned, and they will no longer be utilized by the Mexican drug trafficking organizations or any other DTOs around the world to make this drug. This historic achievement has saved tens of thousands of lives. This historic achievement would not have been possible without the tremendous team of President Trump, the Attorney General, the Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and Ambassador Perdue in China, whose ground-level engagements were imperative to achieving this result. This is yet another example of how President Trump defends the American people, provides security for the American people, and puts the American people first. This is a historic first-in-its-kind achievement by any president to stop the scourge of fentanyl, and it should be championed by every single American. This achievement will save lives. We are thankful for President Trump's steadfast leadership, and this FBI will fearlessly follow in his footsteps to ensure that this mission of safeguarding the American public is achieved every single day. Thank you.